where I'm living, and there's a person who knows exactly what house I'm in if they show that. So I'm like, all right, it's
Oh.
down. Yeah.
That's a bit of a weird angle. Never had to deal with that.
Yeah. So
I'm usually just inviting people round.
I know.
If you can figure out where I live, come visit. Welcome into Broken Home, the only podcast where being broke ain't all bad. I'm your host, Jeremy Webb, and joining me this week is Mr. Josh Earl.
Yay! Thanks, Webby.
Thanks very much for coming along, man.
Thanks for having me.
I consider this payment for taking the show for the week.
Yes, for the listeners and viewers, Webby's taking my show at a very cheap cost, so this is great. Thanks for doing
It covered
this.
parking in the end.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, that is on me, because it's like if I had done the smart thing,
Yeah.
got the public transport, had enough time beforehand to actually take the public transport, I could have
Yeah.
made money.
Mhm.
I chose not to for my own comfort and convenience.
Yeah, I do that. I do gigs where I'm like, I'm gonna lose money here, but I want to do the gigs. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I'm desperate. I've never been paid. Oh, no, that's not true. I've been paid for 2 gigs.
yeah.
So I was like, I'm doing it out of passion still. Now, Josh, when I was first coming up with this idea for the podcast,
Yep.
I was thinking of, examples of things that either only people who grew up broke experienced, but also ones that couldn't be experienced by rich people. That
Yep.
just never would have came up. And there were 2 ones that really stuck in my mind for the original theory. The first one was going to the tip with your dad.
Yeah.
That was just, one that so many people relate. That light up of your face makes my day.
That was a big thing. My grandmother, if she was babysitting us, would go,
Mm-hmm.
all right, we're going to the tip. And it was a
Yes.
thing. We each got to find something from the tip to bring home. And I remember,
Mm-hmm.
like, we were at her boyfriend's shack, which was like a proper shack. It wasn't
Yeah.
like, this is our beach
Gaps
house.
in the timber.
Yeah.
You found it in a forest.
You only flushed once in the day. There was it was a rainwater tank, but
Yep.
and it was just. I remember my grandma's boyfriend's stale piss all
Banking
day,
that.
and this is the guy like he was 70 in 1989. He's not drinking water. Okay, so it's just this orange,
Anything but whiskey is filthy.
brown piss in the bowl. It's disgusting, but. We'd always get banana lounges. People would throw away banana lounges. You know, those kind of- The Rubik's
ones
Cube
with-
of furniture. Yeah.
The ones with the rubber tubing.
Yeah.
Not the wicker ones.
And
Yeah.
it's like a plastic. It's just like a plastic holding you up. Not like these shits, but it's and of course they were always broken. So
Yeah.
you'd find one and you go, oh, this is gonna be, and so you try and get it in the right angle, and it just
Yep.
would never hold.
It's never gonna, the best ones you'd find was like if the leg bit doesn't work, you're fine.
Yeah.
Because you just sit that on the ground. You're like, I'm still stretched out. I
Well,
can
that's
put
the
my
thing.
back at the
Yeah.
angle I need to.
So at that shack, there were many a broken banana lounges up against the wall, just going, oh, you can sit like this though. It's still good. Like
Just put a piece of wood in it.
yeah. Always. I mean, we could have just sat on the ground. It was fine.
You did have to pass Dad's inspection for us getting it back in the car.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you're bringing it over and he's looking it over. Does it actually work? Does he already
Yeah.
have one of these in the pile at home of other shit I've brought back?
yeah. I think.
And also just to check is it clean enough to put in the boot?
Well, yeah, Grandma was fine because she was like going, well, if it's broken, it just gives me another excuse to come back to the tip. She loved it.
Wants to be that return customer.
Yeah.
Desperate to come back.
There's something to do.
Well, Dad was always delivering skips out there for work.
Oh, okay.
So because he knew everybody there. So we could just do a social trip to the tip if we wanted to.
Yeah.
We used to take mates.
I still take my kids to the tip. Like we
Do
just
it. It's good for them.
we just moved
Get
house,
that immune system up.
but they've changed it. It used to be it was in the reservoir tip or refuse centre they call it now, but it's the tip.
It's a tip.
But it was like there's 3 different coloured lines on the ground you can follow, and one's just like your general rubbish one, one's like a cardboard one, and one's like electrical stuff. I
I think
think.
this is one I go to. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But it used to
sterile.
be back up, open up, and just chuck everything into the giant pit of rubbish. Now they've changed it. You can't do that. You've got to
Now
put
they
it.
got bins. They got conveyor
Yeah.
belts and shit.
It sucks because I wanted to take my kids had such a fun time just going, oh, we get to just chuck old toys or broken bits, just chuck. It's like, so, and then we went there and they're like, oh, this, and now the kids aren't allowed out of the car.
What?
Something happened.
No, those are good. That's labour.
Some
They are.
Willy Wonka style kid fucking got trapped, and yeah,
No, for us it was like from a cartoon. Like you drive into the valley of these
Yeah.
mounds of trash, and then you just sort of find a spot you could open up and just throw your stuff out. But then the kids have just got like,
Yeah.
no more. If I can't see you, you're too far.
the Burnie one where I like grew up not that far from was, and I know this is my memory because I was small, but it was like when you see it in the movies, just mounds of rubbish,
Yeah.
and you could just walk around as if it was like this kind of like 8th wonder of the world. It was like, oh
Don't know
wow,
if this
check
is
out
too
this
cool
mountain.
for you, but it are real monsters.
Yeah,
The trash base, like the
Yes.
house where they live in. That's
Yeah.
where,
Yeah.
That's a tip.
yeah.
That's
And
a
so
lot.
yeah, now it's too
The
much.
pile of like fluoro tubes. the lights and just having lightsaber fights and they explode.
Yeah.
And we've probably got lung disease of some case
Oh,
now. But
so much. I reckon there would have been just asbestos just chucked in there.
well, of course.
Yeah.
You just see a pile of it and Dad just sort of gives you the, not over there.
Don't go there, yeah.
Dad, my mate showed me photos of them tearing down a house. They're about 14, 16 and would be 11. Like the three brothers. Just smashing asbestos sheets over each other. Just whomping them like it's a pillow fight. And just watching that dust go everywhere. And then looking at the mate next to me, I'm like, well, it was nice knowing you, man.
I worked with a guy once when I was working at a hardware store, and his job before the hardware store was asbestos removal. And I was like, isn't that really dangerous? He goes, it's safer doing it asbestos removal with all the stuff than it would be walking down the main street. And I'm like, oh, okay, because this was... Burnie
Because you are full like bubble boyed.
Well, Burnie had a hospital that was pretty much made of asbestos, and then when they realised they had a new building.
That's out of the frying pan into the fire.
But it just was there for like 3 or 4 years until they could get enough money, I guess, to get it and do it properly. But it was just a place where teenagers. I was moved out by this stage. I was living in Launceston, but teenagers would just go and just like, skate around and graffiti the walls. And
It's a cool abandoned building.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's nothing more appealing as a teen than like an abandoned like psych ward or something.
Abandoned hospital where it's like the children's ward with all the like
that's creepy.
Wall decors on the it's very creepy when it's abandoned.
An abandoned building with kids' drawings on the wall.
Yeah.
That's a fucking nightmare, that is.
Yeah, so all that kind of stuff was just above ground in the tip.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still the asbestos thing. Like even down in my mind, I forgot about the asbestos because I'm like, that sounds awesome.
Sorry, I cut you off. You said one was the tip?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
So the tip was the first one that came to mind with me, but the second one that just kept popping up in my mind was a story I'd heard you tell about second use of fucking hot dog water.
Yeah, so we call it pink soup. And so it was...
No,
like,
you call it. There's no we in that.
No, the Earls call it pink soup.
Your crew.
So what it was, so you'd have like...
I'm cringing
Savaloys,
already because I know what you're talking.
So we called them Savaloys. Like, hot dogs were the thinner one. Savaloys were the bigger one. But same whatever miscellaneous meat they use to make them.
Yeah, they just pack it thicker. But I've sent my Canadian partner down a few times. And I'm like, just get the Savaloys, right?
Yeah.
And she's looking around. And if they're not there, like written down, she's got no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So 3 or 4 times she admitted to me lately, like, she's went and just didn't know what they were and said they didn't have them.
It's so funny. Burnie was a real Savaloy town. Like there was like the basketball on Friday nights. It was always Savaloys. You get Savaloy on a white piece of bread. At the footy, it was always Savaloys.
Yep.
Like Savaloys more so than pies and pasties and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah. It was. I mean,
because to us that seemed very like American.
Yeah.
But also Benella's a very bakery town.
If you called it a hot dog, that was very American.
Yeah.
But it was no. It's a sav. Like a split,
battered sav.
A split sav was the ones that the dads would eat because if you put them in the water too long, they just split. So anyway,
when they went full like bow shaped, where the skin's held on between either end, and it's this awful. That's a dad one.
Yeah. So
but if you can get it perfect with like one split down the
you
side,
do the split and put the sauce in there.
Yes, that's the perfect one we want.
So
also, you've switched between a few times in that Savaloy or Savaloy.
I say Savaloy.
You put the E in there?
Yeah.
I always just said Savaloy because I slur my words together.
I've Savs or Savaloy. But, so you'd boil them, and then the water would turn this pinky red colour.
From the outer skin.
And it was really salty because all the like pork would go into it. And so you'd have you'd have a little like
what?
Like a little ramekin of it, like a little cup of the hot dog water, the Savaloy water.
I still hate hearing it. I knew you were going to say it.
Yeah.
It sounds awful.
So, the pink soup on the side. And so...
With nothing extra in it.
No, it's just,
bit of pickled ginger on the side.
No, like you could occasionally, if you wanted to, dip some bread in it.
No, you don't.
Yeah, just to soak that bread up.
I hate the idea of soggy bread with anything, unless it's like butter.
Yeah.
In that sense, you're just eating butter.
But there was, like, the football club down there, the Burnie Dockers, they were the Burnie Hawks, and they went state.
You turn it up, it's in the fucking thermos? What are you
well, that's the thing. People would take it in their thermoses, but then they had a huge big, like, vat that they cooked the Savaloys in.
Yeah, I know.
And so,
yeah.
And when they got a big, like, upgrade, some state funding to upgrade West Park Oval, everyone was adamant, do not throw away that vat. That, like, you can't cook... The Savaloys taste different from that vat than it because it's like
that's
40 years of Savaloy juice.
It's like a good wok. You can't wash it.
Yeah. And so everyone was like, no, whatever you do, don't get rid of, because they had like a fancy, more cafe style stuff, and then was and all the.
See, I think the only thing that people would go, okay, is if you got the rollers.
Oh, yeah.
Because to be honest, I was over in Taiwan and they had the rollers in all the 7-Elevens. I'm like, I've never been more tempted by a hot dog in my life.
Well, I think all the old boys just wanted the can bar on the hill, and because it used to be can bar was on one side and then the canteen was on the other side. But I think I might be correct, but I think the Savoy like cooker was moved over to the can bar.
Well, that works then. Yeah. Because who's having the biggest dip at that?
That's very
And that's
smart.
a perfect food to advertise for people who probably can't be fucked walking around the other side of a footy oval.
No. Well,
it's like, if you go there, it's like, okay, you want your beer, we got hot dogs or chips.
Yeah.
Covered.
Because I worked
run the canteen out of business.
My dad was the treasurer of the football club for a while, and he got me doing the scoreboard, and then I did the big scoreboard, and my younger brother did the scoreboard for the guys who were at the can bar, because where they were, it was like behind them, and they didn't want to have to walk around and have a look at the score.
Oh yeah.
And so on the other side of the oval, my little brother would do just the little scoreboard, like just the actual score. I would do the goals and points, and he would just have score. Yeah.
So it's weird to me that he was on the other side of the ground with the scoreboard. I would have preferred like a VIP, like valet area, just in front, walking past like a fucking ring girl.
We would spend every single Saturday at West Park Oval, and it was pretty much like from like age 4 or 5. Mum would drop it. Mum would go to work because she was a licensee of a hockey club, like the bar there at the hockey club.
Sure.
And so
field hockey, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we didn't want to go watch hockey, and so we would go with Dad to the footy, and there's a big clock there, and he'd just point to and go, right, when the line is a straight line, come and get me. So it meant at 6 o'clock. So we'd be there from like 10:30. We'd watch maybe even watch the under 18s play, and under 18s, the reserves and the seniors, and we'd just do laps or walk or run on to like the oval at every quarter time, half time, and just have a kick. But like Dad would just be there, and we'd only ever go to him if we needed money or something like that. But he would give us like
Dad's having dad time. You're just nearby.
He'd give us like $2 or $3, and that would get us a Savoy and some light and tangy thins. That's all you need, and maybe a drink. Yeah. But then
the cans are cheap at a game of footy.
Yeah.
You get them for 50 cents if you're like, even now. Yeah. If you go to the right spot, you get a 50-cent can of Coke.
But I remember once my older brother, when he was like in like year 7, broke his arm, and he was riding his bike and pressed the front brakes, not the back brakes, broke his arm.
Yeah, that one's always.
So I had to go find Dad. Dad's been in the can bar all day. He's no good. And this is before my. So we had to figure out how to call Mum.
It's always good when you go to like the person who's meant to be.
Yeah.
This is the man nearby who's meant to be keeping me safe.
So he
can't even look after his own legs.
I was 10 or 11, so old enough to go, all right, Mum's at the hockey complex. Could you call her up? And then, But I remember that night because we never got takeaway. Yeah. Like, we'd eat out. Like, we'd eat pub meals and, like, at the footy and stuff like that. But that night we got Domino's pizza. And it was the biggest thing. I'm like, fuck, I want my brothers to break their arms all the time. We get Domino's.
I love that also you still kept the self-preservation in the back of your head. You didn't want to break your own arm.
No, I didn't want my arms broken.
All my brother's arms. There's 3 more to go at least. But our thing with like the drive-through in particular for us, because Benalla only had KFC. Yeah. So there's no McDonald's.
We only had KFC. When did Macca's open in Benalla?
I would have been at least 18. Yeah. So like 2007-ish?
I reckon it was 94, and it was the first one on the northwest coast of Tassie. Oh. And every time you played sport, if you were getting beat by other teams, you go, at least we've got McDonald's, and kids would lose their fucking mind. Because the big thing about playing against Burnie was you got to have McDonald's after the game.
Because it was far enough in the right direction.
Yeah, and it was that thing of like, oh, we don't have McDonald's in Latrobe, we don't have it in Devonport, but Burnie has McDonald's. Right. And so you play down at West Park or play at the basketball centre, you'd get McDonald's after the game. And so we'd always like, at least we've got McDonald's. We can have it all the time. I never had it all the time. But I remember when it opened, school started late because so many of the teachers were down there getting like breakfast.
Of Macca's coffee? Yeah. Oh, well, that wouldn't have been McCafe
yet. Yeah, no, it was just getting a muffin or some hotcakes.
See, for us, like the Macca's came in like a while later, and like my mate genuinely was bragging to me. He's like, you know, my grandma had the first Big Mac at the Vanilla Macca's. Like, I don't care.
I remember my dad...
But I'm glad you've got something.
Because Hobart had one, and my dad was down there and said, his mate ate 2 quarter-pounders. And for me, I thought that was so much food. And now I'm like, I could eat that so easily now. Yeah. Like, That's just a normal amount of food for a person. But
me and my dad came down here because Dad's a truck driver, so you'd always the other reason we didn't have a Macca's was 10 minutes out on the freeway is Glenrowan, where they've got one on either side of the freeway, so you can hit it no matter which way you're going. And people are very snobbish about which one's better.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated about the people who work in those ones. Like, do they work in both of them, or
I don't think they.
And if one runs out, does the other one just cross the highway to the other one and go, hey, we're out of nuggets, can we...
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out the in-house opinions, because externally people have definitely got their opinions. Like, you can't go northbound, mate. They'll swing around, they'll cross a freeway.
Yeah, is there a quicker way for the staff there to go from one... Is there, not an underground tunnel, but
if you're going in one way, you can go the overpass. On the other way, I think you've got to go all the way down, so you can do one of those dodgy U-turns on the freeway.
Yeah, there's
just that dirt strip where you're just like, I don't know if I'm getting fined for this.
Yeah, there's one going out to Geelong that's I'm 6 lanes of freeway in between them, and I'm like, they've got to be working together.
That's a lot of lanes, though, to get over.
Especially sounding like a teenager.
If you picture like a delivery truck,
yeah.
If it goes in and hits one, how long does it actually take to get all the way over across those lanes to get to the other one? But yeah, it's definitely one of those snobbish people prefer which Maccas. Yeah. It's all Maccas.
Yeah.
To be honest with those, it depends on which individual staff member you get.
Yeah.
You look over the counter and a lot of the time you can just see whether or not you're getting good Maccas.
Yeah.
Like when somebody looks at the board, if that teenager rolls their eyes to the point they nearly fall over, you're like, my burger's not going to arrive in a vertical means in any way.
I took my kids the other week, and there were guys in the back frisbeeing the buns to each other, as in just fucking around.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not got a good feeling about this one, guys. I reckon let's stick with nuggets. There's nothing that's going to touch too many hands.
Well, the thing when I see if somebody was doing that, it does explain why you get those burgers where some of the ingredients are just not on there at all. It's like someone's definitely been making that at a distance.
Yeah.
Especially when it's just one ingredient and it's the fucking cheese every time.
I don't
It hits half your burger, it slopes out the other side.
People get angry about the Macca's stuff. It's like, you're getting Macca's.
That's in the end.
They're paying teenagers not much, and they're being yelled at by other teenagers. They're not...
Yeah, they're being yelled at by their high school bullies.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like now they've actually got power over you. But our big thing was when we came down to the city, it means we could get Hungry Jack's.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because that's a weird fable that exists outside of the town.
So our big one, we had a KFC. Burnie now has 2 KFCs because the other KFC was so... For some reason, in the last 5 years, the KFC there's got super popular. And I don't know why.
I thought you were saying it was super filthy or something.
No,
so
it just got...
we need to just do a different one.
No, so they've put another one in, but it used to be a line down the block for chicken, every evening in Burnie. And so they've got another one. I don't know where the other one is, but they also have a Hungry Jack's, but it's one of those ones that's attached to a servo.
Yep.
But the big thing when we were kids was driving to Launceston to have Sizzler. Now, Sizzler's real poor people. That's a la carte kind of
Yeah. And when our similar level was we'd go to Shepparton to have La Porchetta.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, so with our family, me, my parents and 3 brothers, no, 2 brothers, there's 3 of us, and only Dad was allowed to order from the menu, and we all just got the salad bar. So Dad would order a steak, so a rump steak, and a little potato, it came with a little flag in it, and the rest of us would just go and the rule was you had to have at least a soup and a pasta before you hit the dessert bar.
I've never done Sizzler.
Oh, so Sizzler,
what's the layout?
It's just a buffet. It's just a big buffet, but there was a menu, but it was
that's just for your elaborate items.
Salad bar, there's soups, there's pastas, jacket potatoes. I think there was potato skins. That was a big one there.
Ooh.
You'd always get that if whatever you ordered, it came with a piece of bread that was the famous. It's Parmesan, and and my brothers I liked it, but they hate it. They were it's like dog sick bread because it smelled like the Parmesan. They just weren't used to the
vomit smell.
Yeah, so I would eat all the bread, and of course, Mum's saying, "Don't fill up on bread." I'm like, "Well, I'm just gonna have pasta. It's all the same." But the thing was, it was the first time ever we had experience to getting our own desserts. So you have the ice cream.
Yep.
And I was so fussy as a kid that I only ate ice cream. That was I'd eat
as a dessert or just
no. I would argue every night because we'd always have meat and 3 veg, and I'd be in tears. I'd walk home from school. The worst thing we'd have Silverside.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and so that's also boiled, and you'd walk in, and just
See,
the whole
I
house
always
would
use the
smell.
ham steak as the worst example. It's my go-to.
Yeah.
But I think it's because I blacked fucking Silverside out of my head.
Well-
I hated it.
Oh,
Well, I don't mind like Reuben sandwiches are good, and that's just Silverside, but it just cut
Yeah,
differently.
but it's with everything.
Yeah,
and
but
like,
this-
it's
like
when
this
you're
w-
just like, there's the slab.
Yeah.
There's the pumpkin
Yeah.
underneath your potatoes.
Oh. So Mum would put everything on the boil at once, so the meat and all the veg. So the veg just had no nutrients in it anyway. It was just like she's a good cook. Like she could
Yeah.
roast stuff really well, but she would just do this, and then the white sauce on it, which was just, I don't know what it was, disgusting. And I would
Was it the packet
Yeah.
white sauce?
Yeah.
That's just called white sauce. It's
and
like
I would walk in and I could smell it as soon as I walked in. And I'd just burst into tears. Going, I want to eat. Like, this is like, I was like year 7, year 8. And then I'd just have ice cream. That's all I would have. I'd just move my stuff around. I'd do the thing where I'd like sneak it in my mouth and put it there and go, oh, I need to go to the toilet. And just go spit it in the toilet.
See, that was reserved for things you hated. Like
Yeah.
that's for the peas, man. You can't.
Yeah.
You're doing a whole meal of spitting.
Trying. And then my mum...
I'm doing my best. To
My
get it all out.
mum lost her fucking nut at me once and was like, that's it. So she booked me into the doctor and just said, he doesn't eat anything. Okay, what can I do? And the doctor's like, what does he eat? And she goes, he eats ice cream. She goes, and the doctor's like, well, just give him ice cream. And I was like, this is the best fucking doctor.
Fucking
Yeah,
hell.
Mum was furious.
Of course.
Yeah. So Dr. Crozier was his name. But he was like just this guy.
Got a tattoo on his arm. Legend.
Yeah, but he was just like going, I'm just having like, because I think he also said to Mum, no child in Australia has ever died of malnutrition. And I was like,
Really?
I'm not sure that's true, but
Nah.
that's what he said.
Okay.
And so, and he was like, he's gonna eat when he gets older. He's gonna eat. So just don't worry. And now I eat everything. Now I'm
Yeah.
not fussy at all. But
I did remember seeing a kid like going around to somebody's house, and like I was around there for dinner. We all get served dinner, and she gets plain pasta with butter and cheese on it.
yeah,
And I'm just like, okay, that's weird. Maybe
Yeah.
she doesn't like this. And my mate tells no, she eats that every night.
yeah,
And I'm just there going, how the fuck are you getting away with that?
yeah.
Like, not even just like the fact of like it being ice cream or it being something you
Yeah.
like. Just the idea of going to Mum, I don't want to eat this.
Yeah. I
was fucking baffling.
If
to
I
me.
stayed at grandma's and I didn't eat my dinner, I would have it for breakfast. Like she'd go, no, you
straight up, yeah.
gonna have it for breakfast. You don't
remember
have
that one.
Yeah, and it was like so I just ate it because I'm like, all right, she's tougher.
Mine, it always came down to the Battle of Pumpkin.
Oh, yeah. I used to dry wretched pumpkin all
Yeah,
the time.
It's the weird, like, stringy texture.
Yeah.
And the smell is just, I can't. And as soon as it touches anything else, it's
Yeah.
infected.
Yeah.
Like, Mum used to do the thing where she'd do anything to get the pumpkin on there,
Yeah.
thinking she's tricking me.
Did you have sauce on everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
But my worst thing is I'd have mint sauce on almost everything.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Loved the mint sauce.
No, I didn't mind a bit of mint sauce as well.
But to the point where, like, I had to eat me salad, so I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going to chuck some mint sauce on the salad.
Yeah, I would put tomato sauce on everything and just try and hide any flavor with tomato sauce.
Oh, actually, my big hiding, because like peas were a big one for me. So the mint
Yeah.
sauce, I would often have enough on there, so it's like a soup.
Yeah.
So all I taste is mint. Down it goes.
Peas and beans were the only two that I could, and potato, like mashed potato. But peas, I was fine with peas.
For me, peas, it's like when you step on an ant.
Yeah.
How it's like it's in there and it's like not really anything, but if you break the skin, it's just the worst fucking like pungent taste and smell. So like I could do the peas. We came to an agreement where I just
Yeah.
swallow them like fucking medication.
Yeah.
So it was just me just tipping back like a pelican.
The worst one for us was broad beans, which is I quite like it now, but it's just
Are
edamame.
they like the pale yellow ones? or?
No, they're like real thick. Like the beanstalk is really furry, and then you got to like shell them. But there's you got to the trick is, which no one in my family knew, was you got to take them out of that grey shell, and so it's just the green pea in it. But they wouldn't do that. They just boil all those up. It's just this grey slop.
They're just going into the same process as everything else, my friend.
But my grandma loved them, and so for every Christmas there'd be like, and we still do it now. We still do, even though no one touches them. For Mavis, as a tribute, there's a bowl of like broad beans, and then so my sister and like
broad beans and a pack of durries.
yeah, ex-sister-in-law. So she was like, that's not how you do it. And she's vegetarian. She's a very good cook. And so she did the broad beans. She split them all and had them. And everyone's like, oh, this is nice. But then it was a bit of a thing afterwards. But that's not the tradition.
Yeah.
That's not how you do it.
It's going to be awkward when, you've got both of those bowls at
Yeah.
the kitchen table.
Yeah.
So not only are they there for her, we're also leaving them all for her.
Yeah.
They're all ready to go. So you mentioned, like, what your mum did to cover in the hockey club and stuff like that. So what did your parents do?
So Dad he worked for this company called Action Fasteners, which was selling screws, and he was their traveling salesman. So he'd cold call a lot of businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And
just to get, because I did have some idea that's what it was. Like, I think of my parents having pretty standard, working class job. Mum's a nurse, dad's a truck driver.
Yeah.
It's all pretty standard. You'd expect that.
Yeah.
But when you go like fucking salesman for fasteners.
Yeah.
I'm like, God damn, that's some Lionel Hutz shit.
And so we used to really enjoy it because he'd bring home just boxes of the screws and also the rubber, fasteners. What is it called? What are they called? Not a fastener.
Elastic bands, or
yeah, they're elastic bands. So when it goes in, it doesn't scratch the surface. It's like
yeah. I don't know the name for it either.
I should know. It's like
I'm hardware man.
Anyway, I know. Anyway, and we'd just sit there, like shelling peas, but the opposite. You just put the little rubber ring on the screw and put it in the box, and we'd do like thousands and thousands of them.
So just in that work,
just this
with dad kind of,
and it was that thing of like we'd watch the footy or watch the cricket and just do that. All of us in the lounge room helping dad out. I don't remember anyone ever complaining about doing it. They go, there's boxes of screws in there. So
to be honest, as a kid, if I had just been sitting there,
the washer,
and they would just,
there you go.
There we are.
Yeah, but the
little
rubber
sitting
washer
there and they were both there, I'd instinctively just start.
And I quite like tasks like that now, where it's just like, you just got to get it done. There's no brain power. Because when I was working as a school librarian, I'd cover a lot of books. People were like, how can you sit there cover books all day? And I'm like, it's actually quite meditative.
Yeah.
Like, you just cover.
Well, that's when these days, if I'm listening to audiobooks or podcasts that need a bit more concentration.
Yeah.
That's the jobs that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So it's like doing the dishes, it's vacuuming the floors, anything that's just sort of spatial. I don't need to think about it at all. So literally doing that.
Yeah. So growing up, mum's jobs were she worked behind the bar at the Civic Centre, which was the big conference centre there. Then she left that and got a job at the hockey complex behind the bar. Then during the day she would.
How often is the hockey complex open though?
Well, they played Fridays and Saturday evenings, and then there was training there, and all the old blokes would go and have a drink afterwards.
Right.
And there was the women's comp and the men's comp, and so it was,
okay, it adds up.
It was like 4 or 5 nights a week. There was like people at the complex. They're not having massive rages, but you'd have to open up and you'd like sell from the canteen and all that kind of stuff. And then
I assume they'd have a function space. As
yeah,
well,
exactly.
That kind
Yeah,
of thing.
And people would hire it out for like birthdays and stuff. And then she also during the day worked for Arnott's as their sales rep, but her job was to go to the supermarkets and just make sure the displays at the end of the store, at the end of the aisle.
She's the reason the shelves are moving all the fucking time.
Yeah, so she would make sure that everything. And so growing up,
well, she's not the reason. She's just the tax collector.
Along with the pink soup, we'd also always have really good biscuits. Always have Arnott's. We'd always have mint slices.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and so it was that weird thing of like,
having someone on the inside.
Yeah.
Just when you rock up at somebody's house and they're like, oh yeah, actually my dad works for Paul's or whatever, so we get as many paddle pops as we want.
Yeah. So in Burnie, the big industry was the pulp mill, and that closed down. Luckily, neither of my parents worked there.
As in
paper. So Reflex paper was made in Burnie for many years, and then it was cheaper to make it overseas. But so a bunch of people got laid off, but everyone growing up, whoever's house I went to, always had just cupboards full of white paper because they knew someone or their dad worked there or their uncle worked there.
And you only need the one shipment too.
Yeah.
Once you've got the 40 reams.
Yeah, exactly.
You're good.
So there was never a drawer on both sides of the paper growing up in Burnie. It was like, oh fuck, we'll just get you five more reams. So yeah.
No wonder it was cheaper to go elsewhere.
Yeah. So mum did that, and then
so we're just going to pause there on the end of mum, just so I can reset the camera. We'll be right back.
This story is sad, for no one was pleased when young Jenny Malone, she bought the wrong cheese, 'cause it always goes down like a lead balloon when the family comes home to a house with no coon.
Sorry about that. It was the mailman.
Yeah. Cool.
And we're back.
And so Dad's jobs were, so when I was born, he was working for this other kind of hardware store company, but driving taxis. He would drive taxis.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. And then got the job at Action Fasteners. Then he changed to another one. Then he worked at Nubco, where I also worked.
Yep.
So I was
in the show.
I was a real nepo baby, and he got me a job there. And then he worked for Coventry Fasteners. Then he went to. I was already moved out of home by this stage, but he tried his hand at selling real estate. People talked him into because he was a salesman and he's like can talk and talk and talk. And so, but
it is like that's the thing with a lot of those sales things. It's the same. You're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just a bigger scale.
Yeah,
So
but
if you can sell stuff,
Yeah.
the house is just like it's still something people want.
but the housing boom seemed to be going everywhere but Burnie. And so
Yeah.
he was there for like
Well, the paper's going.
yeah, he was there for a year. Although one of the few places you can get like sea views for $100,000. Like it's probably not now, but like back then it was like But then he got a job.
The beautiful freezing wind coming off it.
Then he got a job at the local newspaper, but it wasn't for him because he had to use computers and he just was never
Really? Yeah.
But what his job was doing the rental, like housing listings. That was his thing.
Okay.
So he was kind of there. But then he was really happy in this job, which was selling motors for mining companies. So they're huge big motors they need for whatever they like.
With drilling equipment and that kind of thing.
So he was selling that. Once again, salesman. So go down to Hobart, go down to all the mines in Tassie.
Yeah.
And then COVID came and they're like, hey, we can't do this anymore. So he just retired. Yeah.
The idea of a sales job was always terrifying to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if I'm not nice enough, if this person just doesn't, I'm worried about people not liking me at the best of times.
Yeah.
Let alone if they don't like you now, you're not getting paid.
I think it worked really well for my dad because he's very he doesn't get too deep. He's very good at small talk. He can do small talk. He ask about he'll know what footy team you go for. He'll talk about footy, talk about stuff he watched on Channel 9, stuff and all that kind of stuff. And he's just like...
And one step beyond that, though.
Yeah, and then if you ask... And he also, because he's been a salesman his whole life, he just wants everyone to be happy as well. And so if things are a bit tense, it means you can't make a sale. So it's all light and, we won't talk about that and all that kind of stuff. And so now he's not in sales. I think he does find it a little bit hard to, do those kind of like deeper, meaningful talks that he probably could get a lot out of.
But at the same time, you can go the whole life if you're one of those people. You completely miss it. You can do small talk until you're in the home.
It's so funny. So I'm at the point now with my parents where I'm like, that's who they are. And I just have to accept them. And once you just accept it and you think, no, they're not going to change. Like, it does.
Sometimes you can just fuck off.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like
you got to just make your call.
But then you just have to think, they're not going to change. So I either accept it or go, let's not worry about doing anything then. Like, you'll never change them.
No. Not after a certain point.
No.
The river's going that way too long.
Yeah.
You can't just dig a new trench for them.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can. I found that you can get them off certain words.
Oh, yes.
You can give that little nudges, but you're not going to get a huge change. But you can go, no, we don't.
Yeah,
we don't do that anymore. That's not cool.
My mum, up until a few years ago, was still doing the accent if she was telling a story. I was like, I had to say, you don't have to do it that accent. I know who you're talking about. She goes, but it makes the story better. And I'm like, you don't so. And
I personally don't see the problem with that.
It's when she starts doing the eyes. No. Yeah.
No, I do have a big problem with that because I'm like, the story doesn't sound right when I'm not. And I really do have to fight it. Because back in high school, I'm throwing it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I'm not bad at accents and these things, but it's like, there's a talent that is just in a locked box elsewhere.
My 13-year-old does a very, very good Indian accent. And I had to say, hey, don't do the accent. Don't do that. He goes, it's really funny. I'm like, I just don't do it. Like, it's just,
like, he can't sell it as funny either.
No.
If he had gone, but it's so accurate.
Yeah.
I think at that point, if he also learns a couple of languages where the accent makes sense, it's like, okay, cool.
Well, it's like Russell Peters gets away with doing all the different accents because he knows exactly what region he's doing and what he's saying.
Yeah, you can't be broad and general. You're just like, for a while there, I was working on specifically a Glasgow accent.
Oh, yeah?
Because I used to just listen to Billy Connolly tapes.
Yeah.
Because like mum got me like, best of Billy Connolly thing. But it's all from when he was a folk singer.
Oh, yeah.
So he's in Glasgow talking to Glaswegians.
Yeah.
And I'm just there like a code breaker with my fucking headphones on, just going back a couple of seconds every time, just going, I don't think this word exists.
I was once in a play with a guy who had to do a Scottish accent in the play. And do you know how to get into an accent, there's a phrase or a word?
Yeah. So
he'd been watching Trainspotting to get his like accent. And so his phrase, he'd always shout, "It's shite to be Scottish." That was his thing. Like
it's a very Scottish phrase.
He'd be backstage just like, "It's shite to be," and it was like, it made me laugh a lot.
See, luckily, if you're going for Glaswegian, the word Glasgow does it for you.
Yeah.
Because all you do is you get the bit of Scotland, and it's Glasgow. It just does the word for you, and then you can just throw into another word that sort of has the thing. Toast, then just go from there. But I'm guilty of just seeing what accents I'm capable of driving around.
Yeah, I've never
all the windows up.
I've never been good at impressions or accents, so it's when accents were taken away, I was like,
like,
it's
not
fine.
even close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it affects my life not in the slightest.
Well, I'm too overly critical with it. I'll do an impression, kind of sounds a bit like it, but I'm like, it sounds nothing like it, and then just don't want to do it anymore. Whereas at least if you were just doing accents, you're not doing a specific person.
Yeah.
But then now it's inappropriate.
Well,
it was inappropriate then. Now
can you? I think is that the thing. You can do a specific person, but you can't do a broad. This is. I'm talking about.
You've got to have at least a mannerism in the voice with it, because if it's just generic accent, but it's just like you're saying who you are.
Yeah.
It's like I need to know from the voice alone, if you're doing the voice, who it is. Like people do Barack Obama, for example. It's like that's not like an AAVE thing where they're just putting it on. It's like they're trying to sound like Barack Obama. You're like, okay. Now it just depends what you say. So I can't remember what I was on about before. Because we were talking work and your dad's
my dad's salesman's jobs.
But yeah, that was always a fear. Like the idea of, because I was working since 14 and 9 months.
Yeah, what was your first job?
KFC.
Ah, yeah, mine was Woolworths, but it was called Rolfos. That was the same company. Yeah.
I did work at the Bilo a little bit after that.
So I was a trolley boy. I was tiny as well, and we weren't allowed to use
your arms up, pushing the rail trolleys.
But I could. It was all about physics and all about just kind of getting the right thing. But we didn't use the jockey strap because we'd heard, and I don't know if this is just a rumor, that it flew off and took a guy's eye out.
Oh, we'd all heard that one.
Yeah.
As soon as anything elastic is anywhere, you've heard about somebody's
and
eyes.
so we
coming
weren't
out.
like, but it was in the Upper Burnie car park, and it wasn't flat. It was a real hilly. It was like so much space, and you just have to go
so
around.
you're just worried for that whip.
Yeah, and all these big metal trolleys. It was before they had the plastic ones. And I never once crashed into a car. I had a few split, and you have to kind of stop them, and kind of the thing was like, all right, run there, and try and get them together. But never crashed into a car. But then I was on there, and then they'd put me on the checkouts, and then
And you hit the car with the check.
yeah, and then for one shift they had me in the deli. And I kept on making too many jokes about the sausages being dicks, and they kicked me out. But it was, I had some really good friends. We'd all be working there, yeah. And so my friend,
It's like we had Schuster on the other week, and the problem is normally what I expected from a deli, which is just over snacking.
oh yeah,
It's just too tempting there. So I assumed you had one day and just scoffed it. But
no. So my brother worked there as well. He was in the bakery, but it was funny. It was in that the cool guys were all in fruit and veg. So
yeah.
they were the cool, and then there was my other two friends, Stu and another guy. He would they'd be just on the floor. So if anyone had a problem, they'd be putting stuff. But like you'd call them up, service 40, come and get a price check, and they'd go in.
They're the floaters.
Yeah, but our other friend Kynan would always come in. He didn't work there, but when he knew we were working there, he would purposely fall into the display unit at the end and then roll on the ground going, oh, my dick, and we would have to pretend that we didn't know him and clean it up and get him right. And then the big boss cottoned on that he was a mate of ours, and so me and Stu got in trouble for this guy coming in, and we're like, we can't stop him. Like it's like he's allowed to come into the shop.
He's still a customer technically.
So
I had the mates. I had a job at the reject shop at one stage where you're not really in a sector. You're on the till, but you're fixing everything around you that you can see. And so I had a mate, they'd just come in. One would come and talk to me, and the other two would just walk off. And I'm like, fucking here we go. And they'd just be taking things off the shelves and putting them in different parts of the store.
Yeah.
And then just walking out, giving me a wave. And I'm like, I now not only have to move those back, I have to find them first.
So,
but that's the thing. If your mate's got a job, what are you meant to do?
So, I almost didn't do year 11 and 12 because I got offered a hairdressing apprenticeship. So my mate's sister, his parents bought her a hairdressing salon, and
Must be nice.
Yeah, well, she wasn't. He was a used car salesman, and that was like in Burnie, it was like the rich. He just seemed like the richest guy because he would get like just rent cars and have really flash cars.
Yeah, but that was Mum's uncle back in. He was a slick looking man.
Yeah.
Tan suit, like all tan leather.
Yeah.
Like the yellow tinted glasses, and he'd always have from the paper the dogs.
Yeah.
Just tucked under the arm.
Yeah.
See who's raising later.
Well, they bought their daughter a salon, but she wasn't in charge. They put other people in, that was just so she could work. But they offered me a hairdressing apprenticeship at the end of year 10 because in Tassie there was you didn't have to do year 11, 12. And my parents couldn't believe that I turned it down because they're like, it's a job though. And and there's always going to be hair. because the paper mill had shut down.
That's such a mum comment.
The paper mill had shut down, so they knew that like industry
paper mill's closed down.
might close. Mining was going, the paper mill was going, Dioxide, the paint factory was closing down as well. They were the three big things in the region. But like, there's always gonna be hair, and you can travel with hair. People have hair all over the world, and you can cut hair, which does make sense. But I was like,
so you get the same description from parents, like if you be a doctor.
Yeah,
everyone needs medicine everywhere, but nah, who's going to cut the doctor's hair?
But I was like, no, I want to go to uni, and they were like, oh, they just didn't see the point of doing uni.
Yeah, I thought they'd keep like going on the same, like you can cut people's hair at uni.
No, yeah,
if you finish the hairdressing first. But I did buy into that because I got an IT degree.
Yeah.
So it was this, like, even then I did a bit of weaseling, so it was a bit nicer for me. So I did a video game degree. But in my family, it was impressive that I looked like I could go to uni. Yeah. Because, like, nobody else had.
Well, they were very proud I went to uni because I was the first. My auntie had been to uni. She also did a drama teaching degree. So they knew that that's what you'd like. And she was teaching, and so they went, oh, that's what Josh is going to do. Because I did a theatre degree. But they're like, you have to do teaching afterwards. And I didn't really want to. Yeah,
and if she wasn't there, they wouldn't have been able to see the path where you're like, okay, this leads to work. Yeah. There's always going to be children. Josh.
And so, yes. But then, so then I got to uni and they were like, oh, we can't pay. I think they paid $50. They paid my rent, which was $50 a week.
Fuck.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because I tried to pester mum to, like, not disown me, but when you go in and tell Centrelink, oh, they're on their own now.
Like, we had to do the same thing. But I did while we were still living at home.
Well, my parents wouldn't do it. They said, no, we're not going to do it. And I said, why? And they said, no, because you're still our son. We're not. And I'm like, yeah, but I can get.
This is for financial reasons only.
I can get $320 a fortnight if you do this, and you don't have to worry. And they're like, no, we're not doing it. And so,
See, Mum was very onto that.
Yeah.
As soon as we could, she's like, I'd get you off, so now you're independent.
Yeah.
So that means you're not tagging onto mine. But also, she wanted one to remain on there because then she still had she mathed the whole thing out.
Yeah.
But it was lucky that she did because then, by me being separate and then moving to study in Ballarat, that's when I got the big wave of Kevin Rudd dollars.
Oh, yeah.
I got right in on that wave.
Yeah. So I was so poor at one point. Me and my girlfriend at the time, we had no money, and it was like the long weekend, the Melbourne Cup long weekend.
Yep.
And so even if we would call our parents up for some money, there was no way it would be able to get in. And so we put...
Pre-instant transfer.
Yeah, I think we had $7. And it was going to get us till the next Friday when our pay was coming in. And so we went, and it was the Melbourne Cup. And I thought, fuck it, we're just going to put all our money on a horse.
All our money.
It won. It was the favourite. So we won like $22.
That's a couple of bottles of wine.
No, we bought a pizza.
Ah, nice.
But we were so poor. We were looking in the cupboard, and all we had in the cupboard was brown sugar and flour. So we made a brown sugar damper, and also, we also had a bag of carrots. And so we'd just
fuck! How'd you get them involved?
Yeah, eat carrots, the raw carrots, and have this damper. So we had the pizza. We
put them on the boil. Put them in the oven. Anything. Just we're gonna hook.
But it was fine
carrots.
because everyone was poor. There was no one in that course who was like kind of. There was a couple living with their parents, but they also had no money. So there was another friends of mine who lived together, and they did that thing where they pooled their money together, even though they were just flatmates. And one of them, they had like $4, and one went to the supermarket to get milk, and then also bought fabric softener. And the guy was like so angry at him, going, "What the fuck? You spent $2 on fabric softener?" He goes, "Yeah, I don't like my clothes crunchy." And he's like, "Who gives a shit? Like, I wanted food." But I just think
I've never quite been to that point.
Yeah, well, we were so lucky. We were living in the CBD of Launceston in this super old house that the owner of it she married a millionaire and just left, and she left all her furniture there, left stuff in the cupboard. But a girl at our uni,
she was murdered, man.
No, she just didn't care.
She just decided to leave one day and leave all her things.
She married some millionaire, and I was like, I'm out. I don't need this house. And it was for us. There was 3 of us living in there, so it was $33 a week each. No, 33 a month, I think. $100 a month? No, that's too cheap.
Man, this is hurting me more than the fucking hot dog comments.
Yeah. And it was in the
two
CBD.
digits for your fucking rent.
But here's the thing. We were so poor that sometimes we just forgot to pay it, or we just didn't pay it. Never a call. Then after like 8 months of like paying it, some months not paying it, she rang us up and go, "Oh, I'm just going through, there's not enough money in the account there." And we're like, oh, we don't know will happen. So we're scrounging around going, how the fuck are we going to pay this money? We'll have to pretend that we put it in a different bank account by mistake. And then an hour later, you go around and go, sorry, I've just realised my mum has access to the account. That's all right, as you were. And like, yeah.
Swish, blame the elderly.
Exactly. It was just thinking, like, yeah, it was...
I thought that'd still be the stage where you go, well, I sent it in, like,
yeah,
and you could just get away with that for at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so that's what we do. Like, but it was just like, and I was
Fuck,
there.
that's lucky. That's a good.
Yeah,
when you're in that situation, that makes the whole house as weak.
Yeah,
you are having the cheapest but most raucous party you can have.
We
six
had
people living there.
So we were in that house for about 5 years. My girlfriend was in there for the first 3, and then when I moved in. I was there for 2, and then when we moved out, my flatmate's ex-boyfriend, kind of moved in knowing it was too good. But I was at that point where I was like, I can't stay here because I'd finished teaching, my teaching degree, and signed on to the dole straight away. I was like, I've got to move to Melbourne, otherwise I'll just stay here in Launceston and do nothing and be comfortable, because it was like $400 a fortnight for like the dole, paying $33 a week in rent. It's like, that's easy in Launceston. That's super easy. Yeah.
And it's like, and then the trick in your mind, like, then I can do all the creative stuff I want.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll have all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a trap right there.
Yeah.
I had a similar thing with Ballarat, but luckily that was close enough that I was already trying to do gigs and doing the drive back and forth. So I'm like, no, I want to be there.
Well, that was I'd done like 3 gigs in Launceston at that point, and was like, oh, I should move to Melbourne and try and have a go at comedy. And so I moved to Melbourne in like the September of like 2003, gave it a 2-month trial and just slept on friends' couches and stuff like that.
Yep.
Then went back, lived in Hobart for a month and a half because there was a comedy festival there that was on for a month. So I just did that, and then went, all right, now I'm going to properly move to Melbourne. And when I told my mum that the rent in Melbourne, and so it was like $400 a month, she was like, what are you doing? I'm like, yeah.
Aiming for the future, Mum.
Yeah.
Sorry.
She couldn't understand $400 a month being too much rent. I'm like, fuck, I'd
kill for that.
Yeah, imagine that these days.
But I had a point and I just fucking lost it. I hate when I do that. But in Ballarat, I had the same thing. I'm living with 4 mates. There's always enough cash between us.
Yeah.
We had a big... Like, we still call ourselves in, like, online stuff, it's the Shasta Palais. That's our crew.
Yeah.
Because we lived on Shasta Drive. And we had this place that was ridiculous. It had a fucking, like, 3-meter high hedge that just sort of weaved its way through the yard.
Yeah.
There was, like, a fish pond in it. But between the 5 of us, like, all in there, we could afford it pretty nicely.
Yeah.
There was a big double garage that we had, like, TVs and couches and stuff in. And it would have been so easy to just go, like, I live with the boys now. Like, that's it. And it's like, the other thing I didn't really like was like, me and my partner are really poor. I've never been really poor with someone else.
Yeah.
I was always in that, like, I'm too broke to, like, if I can't take you out on a date, probably, I felt like I was sucking somebody into my problems.
Yeah. Well, see, when I was working when I met my wife, and she was a student, so it was kind of the thing I was very happy to pay for everything. Yeah. And it was only like 2 years in that she got full-time work, and we realized, it's so much... I know it's
so much easier with both of us.
I know people go, money don't buy happiness, but it actually does. Like, if you got a bit of money, you're so much happier than if you don't got money.
Yeah, it's more that it, like, allows you to be happy. Yeah. Because so much of your mind is taken up of just, like, you can't spend it on this. You've got this much money. This is how much you've got left over. Or the worst thing for me is, this amount is going to come out of your bank account at some stage. Yeah. You have to have over $181 in there. Yeah. If you overspend, then we're going to take it and we cancel the transaction. Also, that was a paranoid for me.
There's nothing worse when you're like, you don't have that much money and you've got to go out for dinner or something like that. Like, people are like, yeah. And you're sitting there going, well, I can't have that and I can't have that. And if I have that, or my cousin would do this, and he still does this, even though he's very well off. He goes, everything I eat out, I just think how many hours of work that is.
That's when you can't do it to yourself.
Yeah, and he's like, it's just not. I feel like eating out is not worth it because he's got like two daughters and his wife, and it's just the thing.
But also, if he's that well off, how much is he earning an hour?
Yeah, he's doing fine. He works for Caterpillar. He's fine. He's
like, how about the rest of us who would have to work way more hours to get that? It's like sometimes you go out for a meal, I'm like, this is a day.
Yeah.
this is my full work day.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, well, isn't that the point though?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, you work so
It's
you
like,
can
oh, it's this
actually
many hours to get this
enjoy
meal.
it.
It's like, well, what are you working those hours for otherwise?
Yeah.
To buy a different house you don't live in?
There was a story in the news the other day. A Japanese woman she lived off instant noodles for like 3 years because she wanted to buy 3 houses. So she wanted to set it up, and so she's
Aim
like,
for one.
yeah, it was a thing. But like, she's like the effect on your body, and also just I don't know, like.
Yeah, there's not enough in instant noodles. I've had them for a month.
Yeah.
And felt like I was going to die.
We had, first year uni, like Maggi noodles, or Maggi noodles, whatever you say it.
We did the ramen ones.
Oh, yeah.
The, whatever the packet.
Yeah, becomes a little oil and stuff. But the Maggi noodles had a, like something, you got a card, and if you got enough, you won prize or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And my flatmate at the time, I didn't really eat them, but he just had a stack of them so high. I'm like, you can't be eating that many noodles. He goes, well, they're so cheap and they're good and I like them. And I'm like, it's just not so much sodium.
I debate on good, but
so much sodium in them.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like, again, when I was at uni eating nothing but them, it's like you feel dry.
Yeah.
You just feel like you've been walking through sand and there's no moisture left in your skin or anything. We should probably wrap it up there, man.
Sorry, I only looked at my watch because I wanted to know when my show starts. But
that's probably why we should wrap it up.
All right, great.
I'll keep going if you want.
No, it's all good.
Well, the worst thing was, even if we did try to keep going, the fact that I've said this has completely cut my train of thought.
Main thing is, I was poor and I grew up poor, but I did all right. There you go.
That's the key.
Yeah.
That's all right. We had some good tip talk, and that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Actually, that is one thing that I did want to... I can tack on the end here. When you were a kid, what was your, you'd go to somebody's house...
Yep.
And it would be your, oh, fuck, they're rich.
Yeah. Kind of Mole had a motorised scooter.
Ooh,
like a little police scooter. And he was my best friend in primary school. And you go over there and just go, oh, man, this is so cool. Like, that was real rich. And...
So we were a little bit further down, so those scooters, because it went Raiders of scooters in the middle, and then they were those. So they were a bit lame, but they were way cheaper.
Yeah.
So you get one for like $50, and so I remember getting those for Christmas one year.
And also basketball shoes was the big one. And I won a pair of Reebok pumps on a paddle pop liquor prize. Oh, fuck so I was going up to my nan was sick.
That was so much better now that I know it's a paddle pop one for some reason.
So
fuck yeah, shoes.
My nan was sick and she was in the Launceston hospital. So I asked Mum if I could take the day off school and go up because Mum was going to look after her, and she was driving up Joe, her boyfriend. And so we stopped in Westbury, which was halfway between Burnie and Launceston. Yep. And Mum bought 3 paddle pops. And Joe, being an old man, I don't want a paddle pop. So I ate 2 paddle pops. Yep. And on Joe's one, it was the paddle pop liquor prize. Yep. And I got 3 Reebok pumps. And I was like, this is the best. Because I was obsessed with basketball. Yeah. And the Reebok pumps were the coolest shoes. And I was like, this is the best. And Mum wouldn't believe it, but she was driving, so she couldn't turn around and look. And I was like, I've won. And then those shoes took about 18 months to arrive. Yep. And
so you've missed the season, but they're coming.
Yeah, but I told everyone they're coming, and so everyone just thinks Josh is a liar, and then they're
that's a whole school year. You've been talking shit,
and then they're like, oh no, I reckon your parents have got them, and they're going to give them to you for Christmas, and then Christmas came, I didn't get them, and then it was like so. It was
also, what terrible parents.
Yeah, it was before emails. So you couldn't so Dad would have to call up, and the number was STD, and that's a big cost and and so Dad really,
the whole idea as a kid is any phone call costing money,
and Dad really had to put the guilt on, going, I've got a young boy here, is in tears, you've promised him this, gotta get it. And they sent me the tennis ones, not the basketball ones. No, it worked out better. Because the basketball ones were the really high ones, and the tennis ones were the 3/4 ones with a little furry, instead of the rubber one, which other friends had them, and the rubber pump, because it looked like a basketball, actually cracked. Where the furry ones didn't crack. But
you just got to make sure that no one else knows it's the tennis ones, right?
No, well, I didn't mind because there was another kid in Devonport who had the tennis ones as well, and that's Brady Rawlings. Now, you go for North Melbourne. He was a 200-game plus player for North Melbourne and works at the club still. He was a gun basketball player. Better basketball player growing up than he was a football player. So we played football against each other, and he wasn't dominant. Yeah. And then he wanted to play 200 games for North Melbourne. But as a basketballer, he was brilliant. But he had
brilliant enough to stay here and play football.
Yeah, he had the the tennis ones and I had the tennis ones, and we'd always play against each other, and it was like a little cool kind of, oh yeah,
just a nod.
We've got the same shoes, yeah.
For us, it was basketball shoes and stuff were a bit further along, so you could get them.
Yeah.
But we'd get them if you do the trip down to the city to hit the outlets.
Yeah.
And it was like one trip every couple of years. It's like, all right, you can get some fucking 5-year-old and ones.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but it's got gold on it. How sick does it look?
Yeah. I remember the big ones, the Shaq ones, which were
the like Walmart Shaq ones, or
they were the white and black striped ones. They were the ugliest
Yes.
looking fucking shoe, but
Yeah,
everyone
who
wanted
cares,
them.
the
And then
Shaqs.
the other one was the Dikembe Mutombos, which any kid who bought them had ankle problems because they were like designed for his feet, and he was
he's a giant
and also
gangly man.
and grew up in Africa without wearing shoes, so his feet were so flat. So there was no support, no arch support.
Wearing
in those.
flippers out
yeah.
there.
And so many kids got the Mutombos because they were the cool ones, and just ended up having ankle problems.
Well, I remember having a bit of status the first time at the footy club because I turned up. We all get new boots, but this was pre having your boots in a separate bag.
Oh yeah.
So I remember the first time being at the, pulling that out, and I've got a separate zip bag, and just getting the like lean back, having a look.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, mate, there's no mud in my bag. It's a shame we didn't get to talk about sport there, but I'll bring that up some other time. Thanks very much for coming on, man.
Thanks, Webby.
It's been a pleasure. It's been great having you.
It's been nice to be here.
Do you want to plug anything at the end?
Yeah, I do a podcast as well called Four Burners, which is out every single Wednesday. Had people like Reese Nicholson, Joakim Booster, Geraldine Hickey, Poe from MasterChef, Yumi Steins, a whole bunch of people. Ben Brown, the footballer Ben Brown was on as well. That was really cool.
And they're all the one-on-ones, yeah?
They're just one-on-one conversation about health, career, family and friends. And it's good chat.
And you can find everything else on joshearl.com.au.
That's it. Yep.
Perfect. All right. Thanks very much for coming in. Really
Thanks, mate.
appreciate it.
It's been great.
We'll see you next time.
Cheers.